Hello everybody, welcome to Awesome Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and drop a like on this video. I am trying to hit 80,000 subscribers on the channel by the end of the year, so your subscription will be much appreciated. Also drop a like, only takes 1 second and makes a massive difference. And if you haven't already, go check out my most recent deep dive on system players. It's another good video that I put a lot of effort into, so if you haven't watched it, I would appreciate it. But with that out of the way, it is hot takes, even though I'm 2 days behind because I keep fucking forgetting to do it, but here we are. Let's go. The Pelicans are the most overhated franchise and are always short-handed to the stick. Okay, weird. Always handed the shorthand of the stick. Okay, whatever. Injuries have sabotaged the last decade of their history, from CP3 to Cousins to Zion. There is a degree of truth to this, and I will say the Pelicans are not the worst franchise, I don't think. I would give that title to the Sacramento Kings more than likely, but I plan on making a deep dive looking at who truly would win that title. However, with the Pelicans, they still are not a good franchise by any means. And while injuries have been a factor, to have CP3, Anthony Davis, and Zion Williamson back to back to back, if you fumble all three of those, you deserve slander for that. I don't care how many injury problems you have. Emmanuel Quickley should be in the Knicks starting lineup. Well, it would appear as though the entire Knicks bench should be the Knicks starting lineup because their bench is statistically way better than their starting lineup. So sure, he should start. I didn't really understand why Alec Burks got the start over Emmanuel Quickley, but at the end of the day, it's not really going to matter because they're still getting similar minutes regardless. The Knicks just suck, and I'm probably going to do a video on that soon. The Suns would have beat the Bucks had Dario Saric not been injured. You kidding me? Dario Saric, who's like, what, he was like a 15-minute per game guy in the playoffs? I can't imagine it's any more than that. No. Not to mention a Suns fan talking about injuries, and of all the injuries to factor into the playoffs, Dario Saric. That's just hilarious. If what Kenny said in his video regarding Zion skipping rehab sessions and falling asleep in the film room are accurate, I am convinced that Zion doesn't want to get healthy, and frankly, I wouldn't want him on any team I like if this is how he is going to act when he's not happy. Well, I do want to, I mentioned this, I chose this take specifically because of that report that Kenny talked about in the video, and I also agree with what Kenny said, which is like, I don't know that falling asleep in a film room is that huge of a deal. However, the not showing up to rehab sessions, on the other hand, that's definitely a big deal, and the Pelicans need to get on his ass about that. I don't care if you're concerned about him not extending his contract, because you need to get on his ass about that. It's a problem, and he's worthy of criticism for that. For sure. As I've said in that video that I made about him, if he's gaining a bunch of weight because of injury, which I think is the main factor, don't give him shit for that. But at the same time, if he's not working to rehab his injury, then that's a little bit different of a story. I still don't think you should fat shame people, but I understand it more so if it's the player's fault. I didn't feel like it was Zion's fault, but if he's actively skipping rehab sessions consistently, because it's sessions, not session. If it was one, I'd let that slide. It seems like it's a multiple. Then yeah, give him shit for that. He deserves it. If the Nuggets had Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr., they would be the clear favorites in the West. I don't know about clear. I think they'd be right there in the same category as the Suns and the Suns and the Warriors. I really wish we could just finally get this Nuggets team healthy. Like, it's been the last year and then this season now. MPJ was out recently this year. Murray has been out all of fucking last year and going to be coming late into this year. I am a big fan of this Nuggets roster, but we had like a very, very brief stint where we saw their four best players of MPJ, Aaron Gordon, Jokic, and Jamal Murray all playing. And when they did, they were really, really good. I think they won like almost all of their games, and it was like a 15-game sample size. But then Jamal Murray got hurt. So I'm really looking forward to when they get healthy, and when they do, the Nuggets are no fucking joke. Like, look at how good Jokic is, and then add, two guys who are capable of averaging 20 points on insane efficiency. So, the Nuggets are a very good team when healthy, and I really look forward to them being healthy again. The Cavs have the best young core in the NBA by a margin. I think you meant like by a large margin, because by a margin just implies there's a difference between them and number 2, which is kind of inherently the case if they're number 1. I would probably agree to that, just because if you think about it, there really aren't that many young cores in the league. It feels as though the idea of young core has gradually been questioned lately, and more so looked at like, okay, yeah, draft well, but eventually like make trades to become good. By comparison, there's like the Spurs, the Thunder, the Rockets. Really, the Rockets' young core isn't that young. Like Jalen Green, and then obviously Sengun is really good. Jalen Green has been good as of late. Yeah, I think they probably do. They're especially the most winning young core right now, because like Darius Garland, Jarrett Allen, Evan Mobley. How many top three young players on a team are that good? I don't think there's another example of that. I don't think there is another big 3 of guys who are, I believe Jarrett Allen is still under 25. I'm almost certain he's still under 25. I don't know if there's a big 3 young core that's better than that. So, yeah, I'd probably give you that. I mean, I'd have to give it a hard look to say for sure, but I'm pretty confident that they are. Nancy got to the top quicker than any player in NBA history. I have nothing to say about this. I just wanted to appreciate Nick's joke. If you didn't get that, you missed a wild day on Twitter. I'm the biggest Giannis fan in the world, but if his athleticism started to go, his value is dropping off the deep end. One thing about Giannis that I don't think is mentioned enough is I think he is very much on pace, and it's hard to really project this, but I call it a feeling, if you will, and it's not really a solid enough take based on a ton of evidence, but I feel like Giannis is going to have a LeBron type of durability to him. Thus far in his career, he's been extremely durable. Like that fucking crazy injury he had versus the Hawks, and then he plays in the finals and has an all-time finals performance after I watched his leg bend the wrong direction. Giannis is a fucking Iron Man. And I think his athleticism is not, like, the way athleticism starts to decline is usually injuries. But if Giannis isn't going to get hurt all that much, I think he could be this kind of dominant player physically well into like his 33, 34. And by then you would hope he had developed some skills to where it's not pure athleticism. I mean, it's still not pure athleticism, but like to the point where he doesn't rely on it as much as he does currently. Kind of like LeBron has done. At the end of the day, it's kind of hard to project that, and I don't agree that Giannis just is pure athleticism. He's also fucking size and skill, and he will be a worse player without it, but I don't know that he's going to be nothing without it for sure, and I don't expect him to lose it at an early time. I also just feel like in the NBA now, losing athleticism completely just doesn't happen as often as it used to, maybe. I don't know. Like Russell Westbrook, for example, that guy's like, what, 32 now? And he's still very fucking athletic. So, yeah. Gary Trent Jr. is seriously underrated and should be all defense. You know, I feel very vindicated about Gary Trent Jr. because two of my good friends who primarily focus on young players in the league were telling me that Gary Trent Jr. was not good. And I was insisting that Gary Trent Jr. was indeed very good. And now this year, he is averaging 17 points per game, shooting 38% from 3 on 8 attempts per game. He is shooting 48% from mid-range on decent volume, which makes him one of the best mid-range shooters in the league. His overall true shooting percentage is about league average, and he's averaging 17 points while playing the best defense of his career by far. And his defense has been so good that there's conversations of him being all defense. Now, I don't think he's going to make it, but he's played good enough defense to be in that conversation while being a 17 on good efficiency guy. Their criticism was Gary's all-around game is not that great, but his defense has been great, and his playmaking, his decision-making, his not being a black hole and taking bad shots thing has also been a lot better this year. So Gary Trent taking some huge steps and proving to be well worth the contract that the Raptors gave him. I will say, to be fair to those guys, his all-around game was not ideal then, but I also thought his value as a shooter and scorer was good enough to be worth, what did he get, like 18 million? I don't even remember. But yeah, Gary Trent's good. The Last of Us is the best game of all time. What makes a game great is how well it fulfills its purpose, and in my opinion, no game does it better than The Last of Us. Well, I don't necessarily agree on the second part, because if a game achieves the goal of being a shitty game, then it's still a shitty game. Like, just achieving the goal in itself is not good if the goal is not good. That said, The Last of Us is the best game of all time, and if you disagree, you can suck my dick. My fucking alarm went off. Trying to make a point here. If you didn't hear me, I said you can suck my dick. All right, that's the end of the video. Bye.